I was planning on doing a video this weekend about crazy things that quiverful, evangelical, non-denominational, taco, high demand religious organization people have been saying. But earlier I ran across something so wickedly wrong that I had to say something about it. So who am I? I'm Suzanne Titcomer. I used to write a column called No Longer Quivering for a place called Pathos that involved this particular group that I'm talking about, the evangelical, non-denominational, high demand, patriarchal, you name it, taco, totalitarian, authoritative church organizations, those people, the ones that were kind of making it up as they go along that I've been writing about for years. One of the women who is a member of their little group is a woman by the name of Laura Alexander, who writes a, a her Twitter, X, I should say, and all of her social media accounts. She goes by the Transformed Wife. Okay, she wrote a book called The Power of the Transformed Life, which I did a lengthy review of at Pathos. If you want to go take a look at that. And I used to quote her all the time and say how wrong she was about so many things. I'm pretty much leaving her alone for a long time, except for a few things, because I actually kind of feel sorry for her. She seems like she's got a lot of issues and that she is projecting stuff outwards. Well, today, this afternoon, I saw one that just brought my blood to insta boil. Let me read it to you, and I'm gonna use this as as the screen cap for this. Laura Ingalls' dad didn't allow her to marry Alfonso until she was 18 years old. He didn't insist Laura go to college and have a career, quote, just in case. This is how it was back then. Women weren't expected to be the provider, men were. The fight for women to go to college. Oh, and I apologize, I didn't get this entire quote. I'm going to have to go back in there and take a full look at this. Okay. The fight for women to go to college was a fight against marriage and children. I don't even know where to start with this one. Knitter, please. Don't even go there with it. Why does this infuriate me? I'm going to show you something. I have been a Laura Ingalls Wilder fan for years. I've read through this book many times. I've read pretty much anything you can get your hands on about her, every biography, all of that. As a child with asthma in South Louisiana, I read a lot of Laura Ingalls Wilder books. They were fascinating, and they still are fascinating. I still sometimes revisit them, like The Long Winter, when I have particularly bad season where I'm thinking about how badly life sucks. I go back and read about the Ingalls family and realize that it's not such a bad life. But I need to take apart Lori's arguments here because they are ridiculous for the most part. Said her father forbid her from marrying Alfonso until she was 18 years old. Knitter, please, that was not at all what happened. Neither of them, I want to say she was like 17 when they got married. I believe she married him under 18. If not, it was around 18. And her father never mentioned anything about it, according to her writings. Also, you twit, it is not Alfonso, it is Almanzo. M, not F. Please spell check your work before you send it out. And he was considerably older than her, was at least 10 years older. And everything I've read on it, apparently Laura felt kind of bad about that. We're back to that point where people are shaming others for being married someone 10 years or more older than them. I married a guy who's 9 years older than me. Sometimes it happens. I couldn't find anybody who was mature enough in my own age bracket that I actually had chemistry with. She says that he didn't insist Laura go to college. He would have sent Laura to college in a heartbeat had he had the money. The reason that Claude Ingalls did not send her to college was monetary, and the fact that there weren't that many colleges for women at that time. My great grandmother came along not too many years after that and has a master's degree, and she was not told to go to college. She just did it because she knew. Here's the interesting thing to me about all these jobs that Laura Ingalls Wilder took when she was her teen. Do you know what the money was used for? To go to ice cream socials? To get the fanciest new hat? No. From the time Laura was a teenager on, she worked for the money to send her sister Mary, who was blind, away to college. Mary's parents wanted her to have a college education because that was something Mary had dreamed about for years. So, one of the things that Laura Ingalls Wilder did during her many years working to scrape up money was she taught school. She taught school for, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 semesters. I can't remember the exact number, but she taught school so that Ma and Pa Ingalls would have the money to keep Mary in college. And she may throw shade at careers, Miss Laurie, but Laurie herself was a teacher. I think that Laura Ingalls Wilder had a rougher time of it because she was teaching all the way from what you would call kindergarten age up until graduation age. She was teaching children older than herself at one point. And they were desperate for teachers back then. Then they offered a good pay. There's some interesting stories that have come out of Laura Ingalls Wilder's time teaching. She's talked about being boarded in the house of a school board member where the wife was desperate to return to the East. She was desperate and threatened her husband with a knife one night when Laura saw it. All kinds of crazy went on. It wasn't all sunshine and roses. So here's the thing about Laura Ingalls Wilder. She worked so much of her years doing what, I hear you say? Well, she worked for a seamstress. I think several times she worked for different seamstresses. She also was a lady's companion for a while when a lady was left out on the parade and was nervous about it. You have to understand, in late 1800s, a man going to work for 2 or 3 months, leaving you alone in a claim shanty on the prairie would have been a just really impossible, difficult thing to deal with. And if you're a nervous type or you're from out east, it would be pretty awful. You would feel isolated. Now, I've returned to this book and reread all of these stories and reread my copies of Laura Ingalls Wilder's books since we got here. Because moving to another country, you have some sense of isolation as well. And either you're a pioneer spirit and you jump out there and you do stuff like I've learned to do. Shoot, for the last 2 weeks, I've been the only driver in the household. And I don't really like driving on the crazy roads. As I was talking about yesterday on my Twitter and on my Facebook, to witness one hell of an accident yesterday morning. I was waiting to turn onto the main road from the Tamarindo Airport after dropping my husband off to take a flight to San Jose to get stitches removed. And there was a man in a black Escalade waiting to turn left into the airport, okay? And there were 3 cars behind him. A Collectivo, which is a Parada taxi, it's not a licensed taxi, came flying out of nowhere and rammed the back of the fourth car. and pushed it into the next, who pushed it into the next, who pushed it into the Escalade. I heard boom, 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 and that was it. I thought about that because that is something living here. If you're a woman, you would have to deal with that stuff. You would have to get out and go, no me culpa, not my fault. Things like that. You would have to deal with that. And in some ways, it's a lot like living on the prairie because she had Indians around, others that did not speak the same language. And it was just an interesting comparison to me to do that recently to figure out that there were some lessons and strengths to be learned from Laura Ingalls Wilder. I highly recommend any of her books to you. And they do start out childish, and then the average reading age increases. I bought this 9 years ago, 8 years ago, and it was not cheap. It was like $40. I reordered it over and over and over again. I finally got to get to the eighth or ninth printing. And so I know I'm not the only one that loves this stuff. And the other thing that Lori said that she got absolutely, totally, completely wrong was, oh gosh, let me find that. She was talking about women being the same. Well, if she had read these things and read with comprehension, she would know that Laura made the pastor take out the word obey from her wedding vows, and she was pretty independent her entire life. She was very independent. There are a lot of good lessons to be learned. Unfortunately, I don't think Lori Alexander has learned any of them. She reads merely to support her own mindset. Either it supports it or she makes it support it in her own mind, because this clearly does not support what she's talking about. Or she decides to demonize somebody because they don't agree with her. And here's what's really funny to me about disagreeing with Lori. I did something similar to Lori. I stayed home with my kids. I have been ill. I did all the things she's talking about cooking, doing this, doing that. And here we are. My kids are successful adults. I'm still married to the same man I married 37 years ago. And because I have independent thoughts, I've been tossed on the satanic scrap heap, which is just fine with me. If heaven is where the Loris and Kens of this world go, I have no desire to go. This is the most boring place on earth. Oh, I'm not on earth. What am I saying? The most boring place in the unknown universe. Let me put it that way. Okay, you guys, please don't bully Lori in any way, shape, or form, or any of her supporters. These are just my opinions. But if you want a few laughs, read Lori's book, the power, oh, shoot, the power of the transformed wife. She misses the mark on so many things in that silly book. So many things. Wrong information, bland recipes. She gives advice that's downright dangerous depending upon the situation and the people involved. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and go. If you are like me and you love Laura Ingalls Wilder, this is a must read. Laura Ingalls Wilder, Pioneer Girl, the Unnoted Autobiography by Pam Smith Hill. Well, she was the editor of it. And this was published by, I believe, go back to the publication page. It was published as a research and publishing program. The Pioneer Girl Project is a research and publishing program of the South Dakota State Historical Society, working since 2010 to create a comprehensive edition of Laura Ingalls Wilder's Pioneer Girl. This is that book. This is that Pioneer Girl, which is a book that Laura wrote that was not published, that was not published. And you can see the careful hand you're reading some of these stories of her daughter, Rose Wilder Lane. Okay. It was published in 2014, longer than I thought. 9 years ago. 9 years ago, and I had a hard time getting a copy. I'm sure they sell them on Amazon still. Everything's on Amazon. Okay. So I'm going to go. Don't bully Lori. These are just my opinions. But be very careful of the theology you follow because it can take you some places you really don't want to be. Love you guys, and I'll see you later.